It has been hitting headlines in Kenya and beyond the borders.
If you kill road, it means towns like Titoande, Voi are actually going to be affected.
Rail is a catalyst to development of big cities.
Make it attractive, make it cheaper.
What is the way forward?
We are not opposed to Naivasha per se.
I believe we have reached consensus.
When you talk about cargo transportation via the standard gauge railway, this is where the journey begins, at the port of Mombasa. A cargo train on the standard gauge railway takes about 8 hours from the port of Mombasa to the Nairobi Inland Container Depot. Those destined for Naivasha Inland Depot take about 10 hours.
We and KPA, we coordinate the loading for the trains. KPA delivers the cargo to this loading point. It is the duty of Kenya Railways to ensure commensurate availability of wagons based on the number of containers that are given to us to rail. We target, as the government agencies, to do a train of 56 wagons at maximum within a span of 2 hours when the cargo is available.
When President Uhuru Kenyatta launched the first SGR cargo train, also known as Madaraka Cargo Express, expectations were high, with decongestion of the port of Mombasa being listed as one of the benefits to look forward to.
This railway is not just for us. It is for the many, many generations that will come long after we are gone.
SGR is one of the key legacy projects of President Uhuru Kenyatta.
We are now able to receive exports without that congestion and convey the same to the ships behind me. Ordinarily, in the past, before SGR, a vessel like behind me will have taken 4 days.
It will bring efficiency here at the port of Mombasa and the ICD as well. Because actually this going to Naivasha, it will be the customers for west of Nairobi as well. So it will just decongest on both the two facilities, Mombasa and ICD in Nairobi. So operational efficiency will increase at that time. We'll attract more business, simple as that. We'll attract more business. They'll be more confident in using our facilities.
The Nairobi Inland Container Depot has been receiving cargo via SGR since January 2018, while the Naivasha Depot has been active since May 7, 2020. The Nairobi Depot's full capacity is 15,000 20-feet equivalent containers, while Naivasha can handle 4,000 20-feet equivalent units. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the Nairobi Depot was handling an average of 9 trains per day, with the highest number ever recorded being 15 trains. During the COVID-19 period, it has been handling about 7 trains per day. Naivasha, on the other hand, has been handling 2 trains per day since it began operations in May 2020.
In terms of paperwork, we have all the government agencies. We have Kenya Revenue Authority on the ground. We also have Kenya Bureau of Standards on the ground. We have public health also on the ground, and of course Kenya Ports Authority.
Kenya's Cabinet Secretary in charge of Transport and Infrastructure, James Macharia, is keen to ensure operations at the depot are seamless. He says Naivasha is set to grow as the gateway to the Great Lakes region when it comes to cargo movement.
If you look at the cargo which comes to Mombasa, 30% of that cargo is transit cargo, 30%. And therefore a substantial amount of cargo has to go by train, because you've seen historically we have had problems with the road transport. You know, there'll be accidents on the way, there'll be sort of road damage, but now we have this very important investment.
Ugandan traders have welcomed the idea of using Naivasha as a regional hub, but they want to be assured that there are enough facilities for loading and offloading. They also want a marshalling yard to be put in place, among other recommendations.
We thought it would also be optional for Ugandans who want to go through Naivasha, then they come to Uganda. It would be optional. And we have already written a protest letter telling them, make it attractive, make it cheaper.
The Kenyan Cabinet Secretary in charge of transport and infrastructure and his Ugandan counterpart have since held consultations over the matter.
What I've discussed with my counterpart is let Kenya try to make Naivasha attractive in way of reducing on some of the charges which the traders are talking about. But also, they could make Naivasha optional. Those who want to use Naivasha can use Naivasha. Those who feel that I have my 1-car container which I can move from Mombasa on a truck, then they should also be allowed to do that. So we are not opposed to Naivasha per se. And we have actually agreed with Honorable Macharia, and he has given me evidence to show that Kenya is actually doing all it takes to ensure that Naivasha port becomes as functional as possible.
I believe we have reached consensus that the only viable option is actually to use the ICD Naivasha. There are so many advantages. You know, look at the distance from Naivasha to Mombasa, 560 kilometers. So this truck driver can pick the goods from, can come from Maramba, pick the goods and go back. So without having to wait. They wanted to know if there are facilities to make sure there is no congestion. The normal time for offloading an entire train is like 1.5 hours. But the idea we will have now is to do it within 1 hour, to offload 108 containers, which is what the train carries.
Regarding the marshalling yard, this is the government of Kenya's assurance.
They pointed out to the need of having that marshalling yard, and therefore we immediately commissioned the contractor to do this extra work.
When he toured Mai Mahiu, the town near the Naivasha ICD, the Cabinet Secretary sought to assure stakeholders that the town is safe.
We are providing whatever is required, accommodation, facilitation, security, to make sure that this becomes the new hub.
Also key is the outlet road.
We have assured our partners that there'll be no congestion. Secondly, the highway, meaning the road from Mai Mahiu to Narok, even that one is being strengthened to make sure it can take as much cargo as possible.
In the pipeline too is the revival of the meter gauge railway to connect to the SGR in Naivasha.
This rehabilitation of these central railway lines is part of a bigger development strategy to link the hinterlands, not only of Kenya, but of our region. I believe that when this happens, then Kenyans can expect new markets to emerge along these railway lines and new cities to blossom in response.
How about the cost of moving goods on the SGR?
The comparable rates between road and rail haulage, there's a difference of a margin of $400 in favor of road haulage. And that's why every business community are not accepting railage of these containers to Naivasha into Kampala. And it's a similar scenario for local containers bound to ICD.
I can assure you, SGR is a cheaper mode of transport compared to the roads. When we look at what we are charging all the way from Mombasa to Naivasha, and cumulatively from here to Kampala, the total cost by using SGR is around $1,850, while when you use the roads, it's around $2,250 to $2,500. So if you look at you weigh those figures, they speak for themselves.
The freight handlers who have embraced movement of cargo on the SGR say they can feel the benefits, including avoiding the risk of losing cargo, as well as the risk of accidents on the roads.
When we came here, we found that we have a conducive environment. We also have high turnarounds of our trucks, moving in and out collecting cargo. And that is what is most important for our freight forwarder.
We complement very well with the load sector because they cannot carry all this cargo. So when you bring it closer to them, I think that is an advantage to the businessmen. So that means manufacturing, industrialization, agricultural sector in terms of fertilizers. We are serving all these customers.
That movement of cargo from Mombasa to Nairobi was supposed to have been achieved after about 8 years of operation. They have achieved it in 1 year. And the economic impact is huge. It's over 1.5% of Kenya's GDP, which means that if the economy has been going in normal times by about 5.5 to 6%, it means with SGR, the economy can grow to 7.5%, assuming other things constant.
Under the Big Four agenda, the government's goal is to increase the manufacturing sector's contribution to the gross domestic product to 15% by the year 2022.
Now, to a manufacturer, it's very important that you get your raw materials in time. It's also important for them to get their export and in time, or the things that they are sending out from their factories. Now, without SGR, one of the biggest problems we have in Kenya today is that manufacturers have to keep a lot of stock because they don't know when the next stock will come. It might come in a week's time, it might come in 5 days or even more than that. But with the SGR, we can actually move to the level where Europe and America are in what we call in-time, on-time delivery. That if you are assembling a vehicle and you are waiting for the steering wheels, steering wheels are being made somewhere else, they come and you don't have to stock them. They can come at 11 o'clock, they arrive at your factory and you fit them at midday.
Some stakeholders have this feeling about the SGR.
We have close to 300 members, 300 truckers who are members of the KTA. And then these 300 members, they have close to over 15,000 trucks on the road. So 15,000 trucks translates to 15,000 drivers, 15,000 convoys. And look at each family. Let's say a family, a household of maybe 5. Now 15,000 times a household of 5. How many people are going to suffer just because of SGR?
Road hauliers use what you call the northern corridor, both railroad. Now if you kill road, it means towns like Mariakani, Mazeras, Tito Andei, Voi, these towns are actually going to be affected the same way Mombasa is affected because you have shifted that economic activity that they used to enjoy when the road hauliers were applying that route.
One of the most important elements of having a corridor, development corridor, is to create business opportunities along the way. To do that, you have to create special economic zones so that it's not just cargo being moved, but you have sources of that cargo. If you have, say, a special economic zone, you have manufacturing happening, so you can get actually people actually lifting cargo from the special economic zone now to final destinations. It helps us as a country for exports and creating jobs. And for sure, it's not just Naivasha. You know, when we started this project in Mombasa, we also established a 3,000-acre project, the Dogokundu Special Economic Zone, for which, as you know, we are doing a lot of infrastructure support. With that, you create jobs in Mombasa. You come to Nairobi, industrial area, jobs are there. Then you go to Naivasha, the Special Economic Zone in Naivasha. Thousands of jobs will be created. It makes the corridor a lot more viable.
And there is a bigger picture in this debate, the fight against COVID-19, and this has featured prominently in the conversations between Kenya and her partners.
All in all, for example, if we went for lorry transport in forms of cargo transport, that gives us a very big plus. It's something which we must be, which we are looking at.
We are directed by the presidents to look into ways of mitigating COVID-19. Yeah? And that 560 kilometers, which I just told you, that will be the saving in terms of the distance, you are reducing the transmission of COVID-19 by 560 kilometers. And as you know, these corridors have become now the conduit of this virus.
Above all, the SGR is expected to help reduce traffic snarl-ups caused by accidents, bad weather, or queues at way bridges. In addition, it is expected to help curb revenue loss.
Kenya Revenue Authority is losing a lot of money because some people come and declare goods transit, and yet they are not transit. They take them as transit, they don't pay taxes. Along the way, they dump those goods.
Expanded railway network is expected to contribute to the growth of new cities, including the upcoming Konza Smart City.
We are privileged that the SGR is nearby, so for long term we want to be linked to the SGR to ensure the current SGR station is expanded from a pass-through to a full-fledged station. We want to see it that there is a spur line from the SGR to Konza Technopolis. We're also looking at taking advantage of the meter gauge railway, which is existing.
In Kenya, we have a history of more than 100 years of rail operations, because we had the first rail line which was built by the British. And even that project had its own controversies. It was criticized in the British Parliament, and some of the members of Parliament said it was too huge a cost to invest in a wild country where you don't even know where you're going. That's why it was called the Lunatic Express. But look at how much it contributed to opening up of all the areas from the coast through Nairobi to Western Kenya and into Uganda and DRC and Rwanda. Now the same controversy we have here with the SGR, that the extension of SGR from Nairobi to Naivasha and onward to Western Kenya is a train, the rail to nowhere. It's not a rail to nowhere because it will open up development along that corridor.
In conclusion, railway transport has been hailed the world over as a game changer, with many nations investing heavily in it. Kenya and her partners in the Great Lakes region too consider it as an important mode of transport that will ease movement of people, goods and services.